Something huge is happening across the planet, quietly, without protest marches, without trending hashtags, and without much public debate. It's a technological shift that could define how we prove who we are, how we access money, and even how free we remain in our daily lives. I'm talking about the rise of digital identification systems, or simply digital ID. Governments from the UK to the US, from Singapore to Nigeria, are rolling out systems that will soon replace paper IDs, passports, driver's licenses, and social security cards, merging them into one universal digital identity stored on your phone or in the cloud. It's being marketed as progress, convenience, and modernization. But behind the polished press releases and smiling stock photos, it represents one of the most significant reorganizations of power between citizens, corporations, and governments in modern history. A digital ID is not just a scan of your passport or a photo of your driver's license. It is a government-verified digital record of who you are, stored in a secure database and often linked to biometric data like your fingerprint, facial structure, or iris pattern. When you open a banking app, rent an apartment, board a flight, or even log into a website, the system can instantly verify that you are who you say you are, without you ever showing a physical card. The key difference between a physical and digital identity is interoperability. A physical card identifies you once, but a digital ID identifies you everywhere, automatically. These systems use cryptographic encryption, biometric authentication, and API integrations with other databases, meaning your verified identity can communicate with banks, airlines, hospitals, and government agencies in real time. On paper, this sounds incredibly efficient. No more lost passports, no fake IDs, no paperwork at the DMV. But it also introduces a new question. If your identity becomes a living data stream, who really owns it, you or the system? Let's look at how fast this is happening. In the United States, more than 25 states have begun offering mobile driver's licenses, compatible with Apple Wallet and Android devices. That means TSA checkpoints, rental agencies, and even Uber drivers can scan your digital ID directly. In the European Union, the eIDAS 2.0 regulation, passed in 2023, legally requires all 27 member states to create a European digital identity wallet by 2026. This single app will allow users to log into government portals, pay taxes, store health records, and even sign legal documents electronically. In China, the digital ID system launched in 2024 is already linked to the social credit framework, where access to financial services or travel can be restricted for untrustworthy behavior. South Korea, Singapore, and the United Arab Emirates have fully integrated IDs that connect to thousands of public and private services, from utilities to mobile banking. In Africa, Nigeria's national identity number is now mandatory for SIM card registration, voting, and even opening a bank account. And the United Nations has made legal identity for all by 2030 one of its core sustainable development goals. More than 100 countries are already developing or implementing some form of national digital ID. This is not a coincidence, it's a coordinated global trend. To understand the appeal, let's look at the advantages as governments describe them. First, fraud prevention. Identity theft costs the global economy hundreds of billions annually. Paper documents can be forged. Biometric-based IDs can't, at least in theory. Second, financial inclusion. The World Bank estimates that roughly 1 billion people still have no official identification, meaning they can't open bank accounts, vote, or access social benefits. Digital ID could integrate those people into the modern economy overnight. Third, administrative efficiency. In Estonia, 99% of government services are now digital. Citizens can file taxes, register companies, or vote online within minutes. The government claims this saves roughly 2% of GDP each year. Billions of euros in paperwork, postage, and labor. And finally, interoperability. A single ID could let you cross borders, pay taxes, access healthcare, or sign contracts anywhere within a jurisdiction. A digital passport for life. So far, that sounds like a technological miracle. But as history shows, every tool that grants convenience also grants control. The real risk begins when identity, finance, and movement are merged into a single ecosystem. Consider the Canadian Freedom Convoy in 2022. Under emergency powers, the government ordered banks to freeze accounts linked to protesters and donors, without any court order. This was done through financial tracking, not digital ID. But imagine how easy it becomes when everyone's account is directly tied to a national ID database. Or look at China, where one man discovered he was blacklisted after trying to buy a train ticket. His digital ID had been flagged due to a court dispute, and the system automatically denied the transaction. In a digital ID world, access denied isn't a metaphor. It's literal. Your ability to move, pay, or even eat could depend on an algorithmic approval. Supporters say these are isolated incidents. Critics argue they are warnings. The private sector is not standing on the sidelines. Tech giants see digital ID as the missing link to the metaverse of commerce. Imagine a system where your verified identity, spending history, and health data are tied together to optimize what companies show and what they charge. We already have dynamic pricing. Airlines, ticket platforms, and rideshare apps change prices minute by minute based on demand. Add digital ID data, where you've been, your stress level from wearable sensors, even your account balance, and the algorithm knows exactly what price you'll tolerate. In marketing, this is called personalized value extraction. For the company, it's a goldmine. For the consumer, it's a silent tax on your privacy. Every centralized database eventually becomes a target. The Aadhaar program in India, the world's largest digital ID system, has suffered multiple leaks exposing the biometric and demographic data of over 1 billion citizens. Unlike a password, you can't reset a fingerprint or change your face. Once biometric data is compromised, it's permanent. Cybersecurity researchers warn that the more systems integrate with a single ID, the larger the attack surface becomes. A breach in one agency could cascade into banks, telecoms, hospitals, and tax offices within seconds. The paradox of digital ID is that it promises security through centralization. Yet centralization is exactly what makes it fragile. When politicians are asked why they want these systems, the answer is usually about efficiency, fraud prevention, and inclusion. But the political subtext is power. A unified ID makes governance easier. It also makes dissent easier to suppress. During crises, whether pandemics, protests, or economic turmoil, governments often expand surveillance powers temporarily. But history shows these powers rarely get rolled back. A digital ID infrastructure could allow financial penalties, travel restrictions, or communication blackouts at the touch of a button, all legally justified under emergency powers. That's not a conspiracy. It's the natural temptation of power combined with technology. Digital IDs are not appearing in isolation. They're being developed alongside central bank digital currencies, CBDCs, programmable, traceable money issued directly by central banks. Together, they form what analysts call the digital governance stack: identification, payment, and behavior tracking in one closed loop. In such a system, the same authority that verifies your identity could also issue your currency and monitor your transactions. If those two systems ever merge, financial freedom becomes conditional, programmable by policy. Imagine funds that expire after a date or can't be spent on unauthorized goods. That isn't science fiction. It's already being tested in pilot programs across more than 100 countries. Supporters of digital ID argue that we already live in a surveillance society, that credit cards, smartphones, and social media already track everything we do. They claim digital IDs could actually improve privacy by reducing data leaks through unified encrypted systems. Critics respond that trust us is not a privacy policy. Once the infrastructure is built, it can be repurposed by future governments, by corporations, or by foreign powers. The debate isn't about whether digital IDs will exist. That's already decided. The real debate is what limits, transparency, and rights citizens will have over their own data once they do. History repeats itself, just with better technology. Every major shift in identity systems has begun as a response to convenience or crisis. The Social Security number in the United States began as a retirement tracking tool in the 1930s and evolved into a universal identifier for almost every aspect of American life. The national ID cards in Europe started as wartime documentation and are now mandatory for everything from healthcare to travel. Digital ID is simply the next step: faster, smarter, global. But each step concentrates more power into fewer hands. By 2026, almost every developed nation will have an operational digital identity framework. Within another decade, it will likely be impossible to live in a modern economy without one. The technology itself is not inherently evil. It could make bureaucracy vanish, fraud impossible, and services lightning fast. But the line between efficiency and control is paper thin. The question we face is not whether digital ID will exist, but under whose terms it will operate, and who gets to decide how it's used. Before you hear about new fast-track citizenship programs, digital passports, or identity-linked benefits, make sure they're real. Fake digital identity and citizenship programs are already popping up online. Websites promising government-backed access in exchange for cryptocurrency or application fees. Many of these are scams or illegal operations using the popularity of digital ID as bait. Always verify through official government portals or licensed advisors. Because in a world where identity becomes data, the easiest way to steal someone's future is to steal their ID. We are entering an era where the concept of identity itself is being rewritten, not just how we prove who we are, but how that proof defines what we're allowed to do. If handled responsibly, digital ID could be one of the greatest innovations of our time. If abused, it could be the foundation of a new kind of control: invisible, efficient, and absolute. The future of freedom might depend on how well we understand this technology before it's too late. So, what do you think? Is the rise of digital ID a step toward a safer, smarter world? Or the digital leash of the 21st century? Let me know in the comments. And as always, stay aware, stay critical, and stay free.